in the simulation we live in, we create our reality. And some people have never been told that, and I'm really sad for some people who've never been told that. But once you realize that when you're healthy, you have more energy, and everything is just a field of information, and scientifically, if you can see what you want in the future and you beeline for it, you're going to make it happen. But there's distractions.
Yeah.
Right? And so those distractions used to be, without the phone, whatever was a distraction in your environment. But now people can manipulate what you see to distract you from what you're beelining for. I think even if you're sick and didn't understand everything that I just said about CRISPR and the singularity and all of that, realizing that the cleaner you make your brain, the closer you are to God, whatever your view of God is. But you're not going to get distracted by the phone telling you, my phone tells me, hey, Lululemon is open across the street. You want to go there? Like, literally. Do you want to go buy yoga clothes? No, thank you. It's just, the cleaner you are, the more you recognize that that's not for me today.
And I can tell you, one of the things that I've done to help clean my brain is I cut off all television like 2.5 years ago. I was like, it's not serving me any good purpose. I'll occasionally throw it on just for a little like football or something, but that's it. Like it's very rare that I turn on a television anymore. And I have found such peace. I've found even my memory and brain health has enhanced, along with eating a good diet, ice baths, all the things that I do in my biohacking that I do. But it's been a game.
Well, you and I were messaging about this morning. You said your body anticipates cold plunge.
It does.
I've taken so much full flush niacin.
Yeah.
That I can think about taking full flush niacin and have a hot flash. So there is a placebo effect. And the reason I thought of that is if you're sitting on the phone all night or on the television all night watching ads for pharmaceuticals that tell you that you have an autoimmune disease like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or diabetes or whatever, and you need that drug, that's very powerful. Yes. Your cells will start to tell you, hey, maybe I do have that, and maybe I do need that drug.
And then they make shit up like restless leg syndrome, and people go, oh yeah, my leg does that. Oh yeah, I need that drug.
Psychology is an interesting thing.
Yes, and marketing is very closely tied to the psychology of all of it.
Yep.
If they can make a buck, they convinced tens of millions of people that they had a statin drug deficiency known as high cholesterol. And they put them on all these medications. Look, there's probably an appropriate medical reason to put people on those kinds of cholesterol-lowering drugs. But most of the people that took those, Courtney, they didn't need them. They didn't have a health problem. They had a on-paper perception of health problem that was never a health problem to begin with.
And then they got muscle fatigue, pain.
Yeah.
They lost their memory.
Yep.
They got Parkinson's disease. They got dementia.
And ironic one is a 12% increase, at least in the studies that I've read, 12% increase in the very thing it's supposed to prevent, heart disease.
Yes. And diabetes. I mean, it's, but most of the population, when I tell people, we'll go back to ketosis, this is my frustration in my practice. When I say to people who aren't familiar with who I am on Instagram and they just come to see me as a patient, and I say, you have hip pain, you have joint pain, you have back pain, you can't even remember what you had for dinner last night. And I don't say it that confrontational because when someone's really foggy, they get upset. But I could show you a way to have all of that gone in 2 or 3 months. Great, I'll do it. Okay, but it involves not having wine or beer every night and not having any more sugar. Like, to start, you're going to have to go below 20 grams of sugar. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So you'd rather keep going to the pain management doctor, getting opioids and drugging yourself out and still being in pain. Here's the answer on a silver platter. Yeah. But we have lied to people so much about sugar and all the things that they, grew up with that they can't even, they won't believe it.
Have you experienced the dreaded keto flu? Did you know that most of these symptoms are actually due to your body dumping excess electrolytes? This is where Element comes in. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt with no sugar. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited to folks following a keto, low-carb, or paleo diet. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, with none of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. Everyone needs electrolytes, especially those on low-carb diets, or if you practice intermittent or extended fasting, if you're physically active, or sweat a lot. Add Element today and see how much better you feel and perform. Use the URL drinklmnt.com/Jimmy.
Well, it's escapism. I think people enjoy, obviously, we know the addictive properties of sugar, for example, but then they vilify things like meat and fat. And so people are scared to eat those things. So, speaking of psychology, I mean, there's mass formation psychosis about diet that people have bought into hook, line, and sinker, which makes it hard. Oh, well, low fat's healthy. So now you're telling me to eat low sugar too, Dr. Hunt? What? Like that? And then they get hungry because they do both low fat and low sugar, and they're just like, this ain't gonna work. And you're
No.
not at all.
And what makes me the saddest is the moms and dads and the grandmas and grandpas who are at that stage in brain fog or dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever word you want to put to it. They're disconnected from their consciousness. So we know that there is a Center for Consciousness Studies at the University of Arizona. Let's start there. So there is a place where scientists and consciousness people are coming together, and it's run by a doctor named Stuart Hameroff, who's an anesthesiologist, and a physicist named Roger Penrose, who won the Nobel. He was the third physicist who won the Nobel in 2020 for his work on gravitational fields and black holes. So those two guys, a doctor and a Nobel-winning physicist, have come together to create a center for the study of consciousness. Their theory is that we didn't get into entangled particles and coherence, but their theory is that the coherence, in order for us to be plugged into the field, to be plugged into, you can call it Christ consciousness, you can call it the field of electromagnetic radiation, but we have enough knowledge to know that your consciousness is out there. I'm pointing the wrong direction, but your consciousness is a field of information. Yeah. The leading theory that we have for consciousness is that it's collapsed in your neurons. Your neurons have skeletons, they're called cytoskeletons, and that the wave function that I was talking about when we were talking about delta wave sleep collapses. It's called the OR theory of consciousness. It's in the book if you want to read about it. If grandma and grandpa or mom and dad have had so much sugar, those microtubules that are allowing them to connect, to plug into their light, their consciousness, their qubits, their memories, is broken. It's clogged up like a dirty pipe. And to be able to get, I'm seeing women with signs of dementia as young as 50. To be able to get them to recreate a pattern just of breakfast, when your whole life, your breakfast has been a banana, an oatmeal, a carb. Once you're that foggy, you're not going to be able to understand that the way to plug back into your consciousness or your sequence of memories, basically, is to get rid of the donut. They can't. And so for those of us who are living with those people, your decision is going to be eventually put them in a nursing home where someone else can handle them, or you're going to have to live your life for that person. You are going to have to be by their side 24/7. Here's the meat, here's the cheese, here's the eggs. No, don't have that. You're going to live in my house. We're going to get it all out of the house. You're going to go for the walk at sunrise. We're going to reconstruct your breakfast until you've memorized that pattern, and then you can move on to lunch. Not many people with dementia in their family have the wherewithal to do that to save their family member's life.
Yes.
Which is sad.
Make your home a metabolic ward for that inequalization. right?
You know, somebody yesterday said, I wish we had an inpatient facility for this. And I actually talked to some people who were clients of mine who do have rehab facilities. And I said, if somebody could make an inpatient facility, like a rehab facility, but a rehab facility for people with the beginning stages of dementia where they just can't have sugar. And if they, you know, people with good dementia, they get angry when they can't have their pattern. They get really mad. Your mom can be, or your dad can be so mean when they want their bagel and they can't have it. And it's not them talking, it's their disconnection from their light talking.
Yeah.
But if somebody was smart enough to come up with a ketogenic autophagy fasting medical ward, rather than these ivory towers of dementia facilities that we're building, where we're feeding them a monoclonal antibody that costs $50,000 a year to the taxpayers and does jack shit, to be honest. Yeah. And we're feeding them sugar all day long. They're just money in the pocket of the pharmaceutical industry.
Yes, and it's unfortunate. Even some of the leading like neurologists in the world. I remember having Dr. David Perlmutter on many years ago on my podcast, and he talked about dementia. That once it's progressed to a certain point, there's a point of no return at that point. But then I've interviewed other people like Dr. Mary Newport, whose husband had full-blown Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's, and she was able to reverse it with ketosis. And so,
you can reverse it. You can reverse it.
Yeah.
It's just how dedicated you are to that person. And it's not going to be a pretty road because that person will be not nice.
Right.
They can't be nice. They won't have it in them. But yes, you can reverse it.
I remember Dr. Newport talking about her. He since passed away like 8 years later, but he was supposed to die a lot sooner than he did. And that, yes, he pushed back on it when she started putting MCT oil into his oatmeal. And then she came on my show and I said, well, cut out the oatmeal and give him bacon and eggs. And if you want to put MCT in his coffee or something, she's like, ooh, good idea. And he saw exponential improvement after that.
Right. Yeah. And I think I just wish every human on the planet could have this knowledge. If we all could teach each other and teach each other young enough that this is the path out of the brain fog,